We have with us this morning for this part of the session is Dale Cowan, Sarah Hargraves, Kelsey Hill, and Lindsay Nash. And I'll just give a very brief introduction of who they are at the moment. Dale Cowan is Senior Agronomist with Agris Cooperative and Wanstead Farmers Cooperative Limited. Sarah Hargraves is the Research Director, can't speak anymore, Research Director with the Ecological Farmers Association of Ontario. Kelsey Hill is the Nutrient Stewardship Coordinator with Fertilizer Canada, and Lindsay Nash is with the Quinte Farm Research and Stewardship Collaboration, and she's the coordinator there for the Quinte Soil and Crop Improvement Association. So we're very pleased to have all four of these people join us this morning, and what's going to happen is they're going to each give a very brief overview of their research, what they're looking at, why does it matter, and how well is it working, and then we'll have time for some questions and discussions. So Dale, I'll turn things over to you to get this part started.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm assuming that Andrew's going to bring my presentation up. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to give a quick overview of our MyField program, our on-farm discovery, and it's not so much a pitch as to, I guess, what we're going to be doing in 2021. This program is designed to work with customers and with our crop sales specialists to find out what's working on a farm, do proof of concept, that POC, with various products and services and concepts. It's traditionally been focused on products like nitrogen stabilizers and micronutrient fungicide, etc. But we're seeing a renewed interest in biostimulants on the market, number of different broad categories they fall into: microbial, plant and algae extracts, or organic or carbon sources of many different kinds that influence the soil in different ways. And we are seeing a renewed interest in major investments from the large global agriculture companies to refine some of the actives, purify the products, understand modes of action, and get these things packaged into programs and into concepts that we can understand the expected outcomes, know when to use them, where to use them, and how much, and look at a return on investment, because these things are not free. So you can go next slide, please. So in 2021, we are focusing resources, a major effort on a product called envita, which is a nitrogen fixation bacteria that works on just about any crop. There's the scientific name, we won't hurt ourselves. Let's just call it GD for short. It's either applied on the seed at planting time, because it has to colonize the seed, or it's sprayed on foliar, say 4-leaf stage of corn, or at green up time on wheat, or second, third trifoliate in soybeans. And what this does, it colonizes every single cell and gives those cells the ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen, or at least meet a portion of the total plant needs. So it'll keep functioning in a plant as long as the plant is alive. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. So next slide, please. So it's part of managing nitrogen as a systems approach. We're going to look at doing 14 sites with nitrogen rate trials in duplicate. We already hired a project manager to help run that project for the whole year. One of those reps will be treated with envita, and the reason we want to do that is to understand A, what's the nitrogen response at different rates, and B, what is the effect of envita at these different nitrogen rates. We want to understand what's going on. We're going to collect all the historical information we can on the sites so that we can cut the data by organic matter content, or planting date, or hybrid, or fertility practice, or whatever it is, organic matter. So we're going to collect an awful lot of background so we can sort the data at the end. And in addition to these 14 replicated trials, we are going to look for 100 side-by-sides in field, working with farmers. Just take envita, put it in 2 replicated strips on top of what you're normally doing in the field. We just want to measure response. We're looking to do it on 20 wheat fields, 20 soybean fields, and 60 corn fields. Capture the same sort of historical information on the farm so we can look at the data at the end and understand what might be happening in these fields, and seeing what happens in general farm practice when you simply add envita into your mix. And if a farmer wants to do a lower end strip, he's more welcome to do that. We just have to get it recorded and be able to capture that information, take it all to yield. So next slide, please. So very quickly, just a layout of what we're looking at for N rate trials. This isn't the exact numbers, but we want a very low rate and a very high rate. We want to actually build a calibration curve, and we want a rate high enough to create a plateau on response, so that we know exactly where the N rate runs out on giving a return. So that's just giving you, and then one of those reps will be treated with envita, so we'll have both with and without envita on the rate trials. So next slide, please. So very quickly, I had a company, a yield master in the state, shared one of their plots from last year. They did 79 locations and shared some of the plot data. So what's interesting here, if we look at the first yellow bar, that's 80 actual nitrogen being applied without envita, 100 in roughly 39 bushels of yield. And then 80 pounds in with envita, increased yields by 32.9 bushels up to 171 bushels the acre. So there's no question it can fix nitrogen. And then the next rate in the same plot was 130. 130 with envita produced another 53 bushels to the acre. And then even at 180 actual N, envita still added 4.4 bushels even at 180 N. So it's interesting to see here how it interacts in a nitrogen responsive site. And so when you look at literature on these products, they'll suggest to farmers they cut their N rates by 30 to 50 pounds. So what's intriguing to me is if you were a farmer that used 180 of N and you cut it back to 130 and you used envita, you get 196 bushels. But the issue is in this particular plot, you're giving up some 23 bushels of corn. So you're giving up $130 of revenue, and that difference of 50 pounds of N is only $36. So you're still generating well over $100 an acre profit. So a lot of the farmers I know will do that all day long. And even at a 180, envita only costs $12.95 an acre. So even at 4.4 bushels, you're still returning $13 additional profit even at that end. So we're going to be very curious at the end of next year or then this current year to find out just what was the response. How does envita actually work? Under which conditions does it work? So next slide, please. Yeah, so we talk about von Liebig's barrel, the law of the minimum. It's not how much you have of any one thing. It's the nutrient or the element in least amount of supply that determines your yield. So you see the lowest stave in the barrel spilling out the yield potential. So we want to plug up those low staves as best we can and fix them up. And I think we start looking at these biostimulants, they're going to start adding another stave to the barrel of some limiting factors that we need to understand in the context of everything else. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this stuff shakes out at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So when it comes to nitrogen management, there's really, of all the variability and issues we have with understanding nitrogen management and rates, it comes down to two fundamental questions. Do I have an N supply issue? Or do I have an N demand issue? And we were interested in the outcome for two reasons. One, how much N is fixed, and two, under which conditions is it fixed? And we're kind of looking at this envita as being a tool to buffer the N supply. So if we can use reasonable rates of nitrogen with envita, and we get in a condition with overperforming crops where they start to run out of the resources because of ideal growing conditions at grain fill time, then can we put a production system in place using biologicals that just reduce that need for an extra N, or some people call it insurance N, and I put 3 question marks, and everybody believes they put on insurance N, but can we factor down some of the N rates and still have that ability to produce the income that's necessary on farms today? And then secondly, what might the impact on greenhouse gases be? And I have no direct measurement for that other than using best management practices and nitrogen management scenarios. So in a nutshell, very quickly, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Wonderful, thank you, Dale. And I'll just turn right away to Sarah Hargraves. If you want to turn your sound and video on, that'd be great, Sarah. Thank you, Dale.
Very welcome.
Hi, everyone. I am Sarah Hargraves, Research Director for the Ecological Farmers Association of Ontario. And in a lot of ways, Stefan did a really inspirational job at pitching farmer-led research earlier today, but I will touch on an Ontario example in the next 5 minutes. For those of you who aren't familiar, EFAO supports farmers to build resilient ecological farms and grow a strong knowledge sharing community. Established in 1979 by Farmers for Farmers, EFAO is a membership organization with over 700 members across Ontario that brings farmers together so they can learn from each other and improve the health of their soils, crops, livestock, and the environment while running profitable farm businesses. And here is an example of 4 members who participated in farmer-led research in 2020. Next slide, please. As part of this work, EFAO launched its farmer-led research program in 2016, and probably not surprising, our program is modeled off of PFI, Practical Farmers of Iowa's Cooperators program, which Stefan discussed this morning. When I lived in Iowa, similar to Stefan, I was so struck by how PFI was proof that research applied by farmers on working farms is an extremely powerful tool. And when I moved back to Ontario, I was lucky to have the opportunity to work with EFAO and expand the support for farmer-led research in Ontario. So since 2016, over 70 different farmers in Ontario have received funding and support and to conduct over 60 on-farm research trials. And at the beginning of the program, EFAO members chose 10 research priorities. And so all of the trials that are funded through the farmer-led research program fit into these 10 priorities. And it's usually not difficult to put an idea into a priority. So this includes alternative livestock feed, cover crops, disease and pest control, livestock breed selection, nutritional quality, pasture regeneration, pollinator services, which are very tricky to measure in a farmer-led research context. This is what we've learned so far. Seed selection, production, and breeding. And this is a fairly unique aspect of the EFAO's program because of our collaboration with the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian Seed Security. And then soil health and weed control. And you can see that similar to what Stefan mentioned, side-by-side randomized replicated trials. That's an important tool that we use in research design for these trials, as well as randomized replicated complete block design. And you can see an aerial view of a cover crop trial that was done 2 years ago. So 5 randomized replicated blocks in strips across the field. Next slide. I will direct you to the URL at the bottom of that page. Sorry for that early slide prompt. If you're curious to read about the research trials from last year, you can go to efao.ca/research2020, where we have PDFs of the reports, and many of the farmers gave audio summaries as well in audio files, which is a really nice way to take in their information. We also have a research library. It needs to be revamped, but you can kind of clunk around in that. That's efao.ca/research library, and that lists the reports from the past 5 years. Next slide, please. So farmer-led research matters because farmers' most trusted source is other farmers. And as Stefan mentioned, farmers need to know what works for their farm, with their equipment, for their operation goals, their ethics. And so farmer-led research allows farmers to tackle practical and real on-farm problems and challenges that fit their farm. It gives farmers the tools to innovate effectively. So I have this incredible idea. I want to see if it's actually improving my farming. How can I test this? How can I trust the results? Farmer-led research gives the farmers these tools. It also gives farmers tools to collect data in a way that they can assess the economics and ecological impacts. So we're not just we don't just collect yield data, we will collect as much as possible for as many trials as possible, the economics around that practice too. And really importantly, it also provides a connection to a network of peers and other support systems. And this has been a really important finding that we've heard back from all the farmers, is that accountability is really important when you are taking on the extra task of conducting a rigorous trial. Having a network of peers that you feel accountable to really motivates the farmers to collect this data and share it. And then finally, farmer-led research matters because the research is disseminated really effectively through other farmers. So it's a fabulous tool. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. Farmer-led research is working well, and we know this as Stefan showed us through surveys and quotes from farmers. Through the surveys that we've done, we have seen that on-farm research leads to improved fertilizer use, improved variety selection, increased cover crop use, increased weed control, reduced tillage, improved pasture management, and improved yields and profitability. And also, just as a general overarching tool, it just helps farmers make better decisions on their farm. It gives them a framework. We've also heard from some farmers that it gives them a common language to talk about challenges on their farm with their teammates, with their farming partners. And then the process of research helps farmers adopt and adapt ecological farming practices. And this is, this is across the board, yes, from all of the researchers. And that we know that farmer-led research is working well because farmers are really excited to share what they've learned about research, their specific findings, but also about the process of research and the incredible camaraderie within the network. And then we also, I think this is one good indication that farmer-led research is working well, is the demand for funding exceeds our current capacity. And that the capacity is limited by funding and staff and just and sort of the practicalities of administering a program. But what we are seeing is that there is, at the same time, there's a growing capacity for research in Ontario through programs like ONFARM and EFAO's farmer-led research program. And this then trickles down to increasing the capacity. I don't actually know no, it doesn't trickle down. There's an increased capacity among the farmers in the province, which then spreads the capacity more through farmer-to-farmer knowledge sharing. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, we'll have an opportunity for questions and some panel discussion after all 4 presentations. But that was really interesting to hear about what the Ecological Farmers Association of Ontario was doing with the farmer-led research within their program. So I'm sure there will be lots of comments and questions for you as well. And with that, I'll turn things over to Kelsey Hill from Fertilizer Canada for a brief overview of their on-farm research.
Thanks. Okay, so hi, I'm Kelsey Hill with Fertilizer Canada. Thanks for being here today, and we're excited to talk about our initiatives within research here for Fertilizer Canada. Fertilizer Canada, just a brief background, we represent the fertilizer industry and have a key focus on nutrient stewardship, specifically the 4 R's of nutrient stewardship, which is the right source, at the right rate, right time, and right place. So if we want to go to the next slide, I guess a brief overview of what we've done since 2013. Fertilizer Canada, along with our partners TFI in the States, have ran the 4R North American Research Fund and have funded over 11.8 million in projects examining the 4R BMPs and getting a further understanding of how they impact the economical, social, and environmental benefits on farm. One key initiative that came out of this was the 4R Research Network, which ran here in Canada from 2016 to 2018 and was run through funding from the Agri-Innovations Program as well from the North American 4R Research Fund. This created a network of scientists across Canada who work to qualify the economic, social, and environmental benefits resulting from using advanced fertilizer management systems under 4R nutrient stewardship. Listed on the screen is the 10 4R BMPs that our researchers examined. And we further use these to give us further information on BMPs, key findings, and those can all be found in on our website in the link there. Currently today, the North American 4R Research Fund still exists and is continuing on to accept projects and is working to finalize proposals starting in 2021 to continue to expand the 4R Research Network. Next slide. So accompanying the 4R Research Network, through 2016 and 2018, Fertilizer Canada, along with our partners, also ran demo farm projects on the 4Rs across Canada. Participating farmers on these projects were often, they were supported by local certified crop advisors and were aiming to demonstrate the benefits of using 4R BMPs through on-farm research. Projects looked at 4R BMPs such as incorporating precision ag and variable rate technologies, changing application timing, and incorporating a split application of fertilizers in crop, and banding nutrients. Though I did state this kind of went from 2016 to 2018, Fertilizer Canada is continuing off the success of this past work and is hoping to potentially develop the 4R Advocate Program here in Canada. The 4R Advocate Program will work with agronomists and growers to develop on the success of the on-farm demo projects and further build on-farm research here in Ontario and across Canada on the 4R nutrient stewardship management. And then next slide. Finally, a final research project that Fertilizer Canada has been involved in is the Fertilizer Use Survey. Fertilizer Canada, through Stratus Ag, annually runs the Fertilizer Use Survey, which first began back in 2015. The survey is used to assist the understanding of the state of fertilizer management in Canadian crop production systems, as well as how growers are making their decisions about fertilizer applications. Oftentimes we ask, is it through third parties, CCAs, or through on-farm research? Fertilizer Canada also uses these results of the survey to examine trends and highlight how growers are using the 4Rs across Canada and implementing the 4R BMPs in their nutrient management plans. If we are excited to have our fertilizer use survey continue on into 2021, and currently on our website, you'll be able to find our full report and research results. It's at Fertilizer Canada-stewardship-fertilizer use survey. And then next slide. And that's all I had for my quick research pitch. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for that overview of Fertilizer Canada's work there. It's very interesting. And our last speaker in the panel before we open it up to some questions is Lindsay Nash from the Quinte Soil and Crop Improvement Association. So over to you, Kelsey. Lindsay, sorry. Over to you, Lindsay.
Good, thanks for inviting me on today. I'm excited to talk about the project I've been working on. So I'm going to speak quite high level because we're actually working on a ton of different projects within this collaborative project. So next slide. So my name is Lindsay Nash. I'm the coordinator of a new group called the Quinte Farm Research and Stewardship Collaborative, and we go by QFRSC for short. This project was funded by the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, a 5-year federal, provincial, and territorial initiative. Next slide. So the collaborative is made up of 6 partners and 7 projects focused on projects within the Quinte area. So you can see here, we have all of our project partners listed. And the Quinte area includes Northumberland, Hastings, Prince Edward, and Lennox and Addington counties. Next. So Quinte Farm Research and Stewardship Collaborative's focus is looking at soil health, water quality, new technologies, and research that is Quinte specific. Next. So this matters because it creates community capacity for research, new technologies, networking, and information sharing that is specific to the Quinte region. Next. So the first partner I want to talk about is Trent University. We have 2 different research teams working out of this university. The first one is Karen Thompson, who is researching soil microbial activity on fields. And then Catherine Eimers is researching connections between nutrient runoff and tile drain effluent. So they're taking soil samples and potentially water samples, depending on what the farmer has and where you are. And those samples will be taken by Trent University, and the samples will be analyzed and the data will be aggregated for reporting. So this benefits farmers because they will also be provided with the test results from the sampling of their farm. Next. So the collaborative's other partner is University of Toronto. And we have 2 groups from University of Toronto. One is led by Maria Dittrich, and she is developing a bioreactor and is observing isotopic signature of oxygen and phosphate with her team on a specific farm in the area. And then we have another group, George and Carlos, and they are working on a watershed model connecting land use with runoff potential. And farmers can eventually use these tools in the future to assess nutrient runoff from their fields. So we're going to try to make this information accessible for local farmers. Next. So our other partner is Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. They are developing a web app tool identifying erosion potential in their watershed. So this tool right now is in development and it will be verified on the ground. It will be useful in pinpointing specific areas to invest stewardship dollars for on-farm best management projects for erosion potential, or prevention rather. Farmers can use this tool to identify erosion-prone areas on the farm and will hopefully find stewardship grants more accessible. So our next partner is the Bay of Quinte Remedial Action Plan. They are hosted by Lower Trent Conservation Authority and Quinte Conservation Authority. So their program is offering free OMAFRA soil testing and erosion mapping, which is offered to farmers who participate and are within the eligible program area. And this is useful for farmers when it comes time to spreading fertilizer. The farmer can save money on excess fertilizer and spend it where it counts. And the goal of this program is that adjacent water bodies will not receive excess nutrient runoff if the farmer is more aware of their soil nutrient status. Next. So our last partner is the Quinte Soil and Crop Improvement Association. So they provide Quinte Farm Research and Stewardship Collaborative with support, networking opportunities, and a connection for the farmers and conservation authorities to the local agricultural community. So they will host, it's currently under construction, Quinte Farm Research and Stewardship Collaborative's website. And hopefully once COVID is over, we will also be hosting local events. We have been doing monthly webinars online, and we invite people to participate in those. So I would encourage you to tune in Tuesday, February 23rd from 7:30 till 9 p.m. And we're going to be listening to George speak about his watershed monitoring project and what it means for the Bay of Quinte. So if you'd like details to join on that webinar meeting, you can give me an email. My email address is qscia.farmresearch@gmail.com, and it's listed at the bottom of that slide there. Next. So you can continue to follow our group for research updates. And we have a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, and a Twitter page. And again, we're going to, we will also be having a webpage, which we will post updates and information as it comes and as the research evolves. This project has seen some challenges, specifically with COVID-19, but it's taking off. This is the first year that we have started this project, and we will be continuing it for 3 years. We've been getting the word out about the collaborative projects and have had positive feedback in the community and have had farmers participate in this group. And we will continue to reach out and get farmers involved in the collaborative project, and we'll continue to provide updates on research progress. And that's all I have for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was a great overview. If I can ask all 4 speakers from this last panel to turn their video on, and I'll ask my team to make sure all 4 are visible for a few minutes. Just have a couple questions, and if anyone has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. But I'll ask for a couple volunteers, maybe 2 volunteers from the speakers to answer a couple questions. So I'm curious to know if any of you have what would be considered guiding principles for helping to shape on-farm research trials. Are there things that you kind of look to as sort of how you guide your decision-making on how they'll work, how you work with farmers, cooperators? Any comments on that kind of piece? I might go to Sarah first. I think you touched on this in your presentation, but some of the guiding principles.
The number 1 guiding principle is for our program is farmer-led. So the research has to be what the farmer wants to do on their farm. And then we do have these 10 research priorities. We have a research committee made up of member farmers and academics that evaluates the applications. and then decides on the funding. One really, when I thought of this question, I thought of keep it simple. That's my other guiding principle, is really narrow it down to what data does the farmer truly need to move forward with his or her management, and let's just focus on that, and we can then add iterations of research in future years, but keeping it simple.
Yeah, I like that. Keep it simple. Always good advice. Dale, did you have any comments on guiding principles with farmer-led research?
Yeah, much the same as Sarah's. It is very much what our farmers want to do. The whole point of our MyField is what's the farmer want to know? He's got a plethora of products, an overwhelming choice. What's best on his farm? So a lot of our trial work is comparisons with and without, or multiple comparisons. But the overriding thing is just test one thing. Don't cloud the issue. Just do one thing at a time, and run a check. The most important treatment is a zero check, and so just make sure we have proper setup so we know what we're measuring. And yeah, so just keep it simple, one thing at a time. Or if you want to do two things, do the second one in a separate area in the field. But that's probably the best advice I can give, is just keep it as simple as you can and measure one thing at a time.
Well, that's great. Lindsay or Kelsey, did you have anything to add to that guiding principles piece?
So
go ahead. Sorry.
So our group is really focusing on relationship building and sharing information. So that really is what our guiding principles are. We're trying to really create a good environment for those types of things to flourish between the partners as well as the agricultural community.
Great. Kelsey?
Yeah, I think our guiding principles as well is the communication of that, and kind of when we're doing the on-farm research, being able to give a platform for the farmers to present their data to other growers and represent it to them.
Excellent, thank you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to ask you one more question. I'll ask for a short answer from each of you. And there is a question in the chat that I think Angie and Don King and Mari might be able to answer, but some of you might want to weigh in on that as well. It's broadening the scope of research, so I'll let you have a look at that after. But just quickly, and I'll start this time with Dale. What would you highlight as a win in your involvement in on-farm research? Do you have an aha moment or a really key takeaway for yourself?
I just think advancing knowledge, finding out what works, what doesn't. Great,
thank you. Lindsay?
That was a really good answer. I'd probably say something similar. And relationship building, that would be a win. And just keep this moving forward and have opportunities for new research projects in this area, and build upon the connections we've already made.
Excellent. Sarah?
I think a real aha moment for me was one of our first research symposiums, and even when farmers don't get the results they want, or the trial doesn't go well, the process of research is so helpful for farmers to wrap their heads around observations in the field, decision-making. And so just the learnings that come with doing the research, not just from the research, really important.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And Kelsey?
Yeah, and from Fertilizer Canada's perspective especially, I think it's the opportunity to work with farmers, just as we are an industry-led initiative, and as well as kind of getting a further understanding as we continue to develop these for our practices and for our programming across Canada, what's working on farm and how we can use that to incorporate towards our guidance and principles in the programs.
That's great. And I've just heard that we're not going to be able to have one speaker join us in the next panel. So I do have time for one more question for each of you. But those are great answers so far. So maybe only a couple of you want to answer this one, but do you have any advice that you would give to someone who wants to try on-farm research, whether that be a farmer themselves or a program that's going to get up and running? What advice would you give? And maybe I'll start this time with Kelsey.
Yeah, I think I'll echo the comments from the previous, keeping it simple and ensuring, I know with the 4Is we're often looking at 4 principles within it, but just kind of looking at one and trying to evaluate that as well is a good way to continue through the research.
Great. Dale, do you have any comments on that? Advice you'd give to either farmers or a program kind of type of delivery mechanism?
Trials take a passion, they take curiosity, and they take commitment. You have to be willing, and it's not a criticism of anybody, you just have to be willing to implement, put the plot in, and then take it through and actually harvest the data. I've lost too many plots to being harvested at midnight on a Sunday night and they went right through the plot and never captured any data. So just have to have that commitment that you're going to follow it right through. So again, not criticizing any farmers, it just happens.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, if you're going to do the trial, you got to take it right to the finish line. So that's a good point. Lindsay, do you have a comment on that one?
My advice would be stick to it and don't get discouraged. And then my other piece of advice would be roll with the challenges. That's something that we've especially learned in the past year with COVID and all of that fun stuff. So we've just had to adapt and roll with it and keep moving forward. So stay positive and keep doing that.
Great. Thank you so much. Sarah, did you have any last comments on that? Advice you'd give to anybody?
Yeah, for farmers, I think engaging in a multi-farm trial is a really nice way to start out. It doesn't put all the pressure on you to collect all the data. Similarly, it's really nice for farmers to participate in variety trials or conduct a variety trial themselves. These are good entry points for farmer-led research. And from a program perspective, I would echo what Lindsay said in flexibility. So as a researcher, if you're implementing farmer-led research, understanding that you just have to be a little bit more flexible with what research means and how data is collected and how protocols might need to be dynamic.